Welcome to this edition of Weather to Watch. We have a wild swing of weather across the country to talk about, but the highlight certainly for the country, I think, is the Chicago snow forecast for later tonight and early tomorrow. I'm from Chicago, and we rarely get this type of lake effect snow on that side of Lake Michigan, so I'll talk more about that in a second. Also, this entire snow winter pattern reverses itself all week and will eventually lead to a severe thunderstorm threat, believe it or not. Let's dive into it. Hi, I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Let's take a look at the visible satellite loop on this Sunday afternoon as we transition from day to night and from visible satellite, which is reflected light off the clouds, to infrared, which is that sweep you see across the screen there. Obviously, a huge storm here around the Great Lakes and getting into the northeastern U.S., several bands of clouds just accompanying this. Thunderstorms down here in Georgia and Florida could be severe. But let's take a look at the upper levels, the 500 millibar flow. Very, very winter-like pattern, really, except for the fact that the temperatures aren't quite cold enough for all of this to be snow, but they're pretty cold on Sunday here. The center of that low is north of Lake Superior. Very strong jet stream winds blowing around what we define as a trough of low pressure right through here, with ridging, the opposite effect over California and Nevada here at this Sunday hour. The low pressure area, at least according to what the model thinks, and it's pretty close, is right here over Pennsylvania. Strong winds. Here's the high coming in on this side. So we have strong cross isobar flow, usually about 30 degrees, unless the pressure systems are deepening rapidly. Then it can get up to 45 degrees or more. And we're going to talk more about what these surface winds and upper level winds are doing in this area here in just a minute. Let's take a quick look at the surface map. It does show that high pressure area over Pennsylvania with the low pressure area over Pennsylvania with the high pressure area just now dropping out of Canada into North Dakota. Let's take a closer look at that snow. Well, first of all, let's take a look at what happened. This is looking over the last 48 hours. So we had pretty good snows if you're looking at just kind of an orientation here. This is Iowa right here, and then this is South Dakota right here. So we had 3, 4, a couple of 5-inch totals, very common out through this portion of northwest Iowa, southwest Minnesota, and parts of South Dakota as well. And if we look at a camera there from Parker, South Dakota earlier today, you can see about 3 inches of snow on the ground probably in some areas there. And then as that little clipper system advanced, it did dump up 2.5 inches of snow in northwest Illinois. And then it kicked in as all the models said it would. 2.5-inch totals maximum there through southern Michigan. Now that's all as of about this afternoon sometime. But what I want to show you is the radar loop here late on this afternoon, which is showing you lake effect snow bands. And so far, these have been rain, but the temperatures are changing and the conditions are changing. So this would normally be, if this were snow, a pretty good lake effect snow in this area. But what's going to happen with the upper level wind pattern is this is going to shift more and come onshore on this side of Lake Michigan instead of where most of the traditional lake effect snow occurs, which is what I just circled right there. Let's take a look at the surface conditions here. Now, this is the station model. Notice all the readings, the temperatures in the upper left-hand corner, South Bend, Michigan City, 32 degrees. Also around O'Hare, 32 degrees. Midway, 33 degrees. Those are both airports. So the stage is set here for, again, if you just looked at the surface winds, you would say lake effect snows here. But it's a twisting motion that's expected to happen overnight tonight, with the winds coming more out of the north and north-northeast and the upper level winds supporting lifting motion. So all of that combined, and you're reading this right, this is the National Weather Service forecast total through Tuesday morning. You're seeing a 16.5-inch snow total in downtown Chicago? Yes, absolutely. That's what they're forecasting, with maybe 9 to 10, 12 of that falling late tonight and through tomorrow, and then an additional through tomorrow afternoon. Pretty amazing, really. But the other side of the lake is still experiencing lake effect snow totals as well, with South Bend expecting almost 8 inches. I zoomed in on the winter storm warning, which again for lake effect snow for Chicago proper is rare. I grew up a little bit in Chicago and right on the Will-Cook County line there in Steger, Illinois. Anyway, under a winter storm warning for lake effect snow, but it also in the traditional band as well. Just kind of a reflection of the fact that the wind is going to do this, and then it's going to do this, and then it's going to kind of turn with time. Winter weather advisories are in effect on the fringes of that warning. But there's a lot of winter weather. Some of the Appalachian mountain areas under a winter storm warning, the traditional snow belt there in the UP of Michigan, and winter weather advisories for lake effect snows, and a combination of that and the little low pressure system that I just showed you up in upstate New York, not quite in the Buffalo area, but close, and Cleveland, Erie, Pennsylvania, not technically in that, but I think that might just be because I didn't grab those advisories fast enough. So if we look at the snow totals up in the Northeast, you're still seeing, this is why I say that Erie is forecast to get about 2 to 5 inches of snow. So I think we just kind of missed that a little bit on the update. Let's take a look at some severe weather potential. Did have some thunderstorms erupting in this area here. There is a marginal risk of severe weather, the lowest out of the 5 for southern Georgia, coastal areas of South Carolina, and central and northern Florida. Again, some of those thunderstorms have recently popped up, and there could be some wind gusts, maybe a little bit of small hail with some of those storms. Don't see much of a tornado threat with any of that activity. Let's look at the wrong range. Well, what's interesting about this map is that the colors are above or below normal, so very cold on Monday with highs barely above freezing. Knoxville, 34 degrees. Atlanta, only 40 in my current hometown of Springfield, Missouri. And then there's a very sharp dividing line where it gets very warm out west with highs in the 60s in Montana on Monday. If we take a look at Wednesday's map, the only remnants of this Arctic air are this slight green area here below normal, but look how quickly the western, I'm going to almost say 3/4 of the U.S. is going to above normal temperatures. So extreme above normal would be these reds here. And then if we advance to Friday, look at this. It'll be 72 in Rapid City on Friday. Very unusual for this time of year. These are readings that are about 20 to 25 degrees above normal throughout all this area, 74 in my town. And lake effect snows will transform to a 56-degree high temperature in Chicago on Friday. So the last one thing I want to show you, why is it warming up here in the Central Plains? Because this 500 millibar pattern that I showed you at the top of the recording is completely reversing itself. We'll take a look at 2 models here. This is the ensemble model from the GFS, the American model of this, 500 millibars. Remember, there was a deep trough here right now. Now, on Friday, deep trough in the western U.S. and a ridge extending through the Central Plains. So this is where you would expect warming to occur, and indeed it is. We have stronger winds diving onto the western side of this, so it's not quite a negatively tilted trough, but it certainly has the potential to be. It's sort of a neutral north-south, but with these winds diving in across the base, that could change. I wanted to show you GEFS's idea of what dew points will look like on Friday. I'm looking for severe weather energy here. So 60-degree dew points are forecast in East Texas, nosing into parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas, with 50s all the way up into Iowa. And I wanted to see if there was continuity, so I looked at the European model, the EPS version of this, almost identical with the trough position, the stronger winds coming in behind that, the ridge of high pressure on the Central Plains. So all this points to extreme warmth out ahead of that. And then on their dew point analysis, pretty close, really. The 50s are a little deeper and richer farther to the north. But the 60s not quite getting in there. But notice there's little patches here. So for all practical purposes, I think those 2 maps are identical. So if you're looking for severe weather, it could occur through this area here as a little disturbance especially can round the trough and come out into the plains. It's possible. But then once this really moves, I think that the main severe weather threat on Friday, it's possible. On Saturday, I would peg it right in this area here. But I'll have more on that later in the week. That's still 6 days out, so a lot of speculation. But one thing that I think we can certainly count on is a reversal of these polar temperatures to very much above normal temperatures in the central U.S. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.